feel-good music for the nice weather outside. Thanks, Eric. Well, welcome back to Brashenomics. This is Heather Moore, and you'll notice if you've been listening between the break that this is going to flow nicely into what we're talking about after Sarah Adler. And we have Ellie Winninghoff with us, who's a journalist specializing in socially responsible, ethical, green, and positive impact investment. She also serves on the advisory board of Ethical Markets Media, LLC, and contributes to Financial Advisor, which is also known as FA Green. And you can find more of her work on her popular blog, dogoodcapitalist.com, which is actually where I found this part one of which is going to be a series of articles you've been doing. Well, first off, welcome, Ellie. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Oh, good. It's great to have you here. And before we kind of get into what this article was about, I think we should talk about something that you called impact investing, because I, probably like a lot of people out there, had it confused with socially responsible investing, which is what we've talked about on the show before.
Okay, yeah. Well, there's a feeling out there that socially responsible investing is about excluding certain stocks from your portfolio.
Right.
It actually is a lot more than that, but what impact investing is proactively investing in a specific environmental or social problem that you want to solve. So if you think there's a food problem out there, you will be investing in farmers or investing in farms, investing in ways to distribute real food to real people.
Which was sort of what this article that you have is about. It is called Follow the Food, and you can, if you go to her blog, you can find it at hooks to, what was it, FA Green, which is a magazine that you publish in.
Well, yeah, it's now Private Wealth, but it's both of them.
Well, let's just, talk about, when we're talking about impact investing, when I heard the term sustainable agriculture, I didn't really understand what it meant. So maybe if you could talk to us a little bit about the difference between sustainable agriculture versus conventional farmland investing, that would help people kind of understand where we're going with this topic.
Okay. Well, conventional farmland is what they call monocrops. Mm-hmm. So it's acres and acres and acres.
What you think of when you think farming.
Yeah, well,
I think of when I
go to the farmer's market. I don't.
Old McDonald's farm.
It's what's become conventional farming in this country. It's not really how it started.
Yeah, good point.
But it's acres and acres and acres of the same thing. And technologies have been developed so that we can do that. Mm-hmm. But they're all very oil intensive. So the fertilizers got oil. The tractors use oil. You move everything all over the place. And even when you process food, we were talking about processed food.
That requires energy.
Oh, my God. You may move something 15 times in order to create a TV dinner.
Well, exactly. And what I was noticing in this article is, when you have to take into account when oil and ethanol and, energy is involved, the cost of that's going up and just becoming more expensive to farmers and to everybody else. That's what it translates to.
Well, yeah, we've got a peak oil situation. Mm-hmm. So we have to go 2 miles under the ocean now in order to get that oil. I mean, some people argue, we've got plenty of oil. Yeah, but we have to go 2 miles under the ocean to get it. So it's much higher risk to get it, and it's harder to get. And so that's why they've started converting some of that corn land to ethanol. Mm-hmm. But that too is oil driven. Yeah,
absolutely. So talk a little bit about, I guess, sustainable agriculture and how that kind of goes back to how farming was originally conceived and how.
Well, it's not totally about how it was originally conceived.
Okay.
There are people that have been making innovations so that it's more possible in the 21st century.
Right. And closer to the city.
Yeah, I mean, I listed 3 types in here. Mm-hmm. No kidding.
Well, I will tell you one of them. Biodynamic farming was one that we
so that actually started in Europe probably about a century ago, and that was started by Rudolf Steiner, who was a bit of a mystic. And so but basically everything happens on the farm. Mm-hmm. So you've got the animals on the farm. You use their.
You're thinking of a nice word for fertilizer.
You use their.
It's all a system basically, without
it's
having
a closed loop system, so it's all on the farm.
Yeah,
and then the French back in for centuries, even in Paris, they had a similar sort of system, but they would have farmers like in 1 or 2 acres throughout Paris, and they would use the manure from the horses to fertilize the plots.
Right.
And since everybody only had 1 or 2 acres, they would really farm those 2 acres really well, and so that was called intensive farming. So then John Jevons, who's in California, came along, and he decided to mix Rudolf Steiner's biodynamic farming with the French method of biointensive farming so that you could it's the whole idea is to get massive yields out of small pieces of property.
Yeah.
So that's really an innovation since the 70s.
And all of these methods don't require as much energy, and they're not affected by, the prices of oil. They're
it's where the animal is the energy.
Yeah. And then I wanted to just talk a little bit further about, we talk, when you're building these, these farms are a lot smaller in scale, and, acquiring them also involves requiring land. And that's a problem too for people, is acquiring land to use for these that's actually in a place where they can deliver, the food to local communities is hard too.
Yeah, we need more farms and more local communities. That's kind of the idea there. We've had, with the monoculture, we were getting everything from California or from the Midwest. Mm-hmm. And so now as the price of oil goes up and up and up, and we're going to want farmers closer in.
So the food prices won't keep going up and up and up, right?
We hope not.
Yeah.
There's lots of different issues involved there.
Yeah. It's complicated, and it's hard to make it simple, but, getting these farms and locations to have, these farms that yield a lot and that don't require as much energy is difficult. And that's, I guess, where the investing part comes in.
Some of it, yeah.
Some of it. So talk a little bit about, how you invest and why it's important, when what the outcome is of the investment, where it goes, and how, you know what I mean? If you're investing in sustainable agriculture, what are you actually investing in? Buying farmland, helping a farmer buy farmland?
Well, there's a lot of different ways to do it. And so I used only 2 examples in this particular article. But one of them, I used a local, which is the PCC Farmland Trust, because what they've been doing is, they've been trying to help us get farms close to Seattle. Mm-hmm. So there's an example in there. Yeah. But the land around Seattle is pretty expensive.
Yeah.
And so it has development value. Mm-hmm. And so even if you've got a farm, and somebody gets old and they want to retire and they're going to sell the farm, that farmland is going to have development value. Mm-hmm. And so that's probably too expensive for most farmers. Like that one example we've got there, I forget it. I think it was maybe 100 acres.
I mean, it was just, there was no way farmer could afford to buy that.
So it was about $2.4 million for that 100 acres. And so what there's this activity out there, land trusts, mm-hmm. and conservation, or there have been conservation easements. And so mm-hmm. traditionally, those conservation easements are put on properties in order to totally preserve them. Mm-hmm. So they're what's called forever wild, which means you don't do anything on that land. Right. But now there's been a change in some of those, and now you can craft these conservation easements so they're like working farm conservation easements. And so PCC Farmland Trust went out and got money and created bought the easement so that could be a working farm. Mm-hmm. And so it paid $1.2 million for that. It got some grants and things and some donations to do that. And then the cost to the farm, to the 3 farmers that it ended up selling the farmland
much less,
was $1.2 million for all 3 of them, instead of $2.4 million.
Right.
So then it was much more affordable. Each of them had to pay about a third of that.
Now, is this something where you can go invest? There are funds out there that support this kind of activity, or is it more on a private basis? Well, in that particular example, you would give money to the PCC Farmland Trust. Is it an investment though, or is it more charitable giving? That particular thing, I don't like to I don't. It's charitable giving. Okay. So if you want to see a change, there are the other fund I put in there, Equity Trust. Mm-hmm. You actually invest in their fund, and then they will buy conservation easements, and then you'll get some return. You won't get a big return, but you'll get a small return. Yeah, and there's a lot of activity going on right now. Everybody wants to create these impact investments. Yeah. Well, if it's something you believe in, I think though, whether it is charitable giving or if you are getting somewhat of a positive investment return, I think that's good. And I think that, the way we farm and the way we get food does need to change with the way the cost of oil is going, the cost of getting it, all those things. And there's a lot of issues to be explored within this article. So if you want to read more, you can find the links on Ellie's blog. And what did you have? Part 2, 3, 4, 5? Yeah, I'm going to keep going. Okay. It's just a really big topic, so you can't cover it in a small amount. Absolutely not, and definitely not in 10 minutes. But we tried, and thank you so much, Ellie, for joining us. It really is interesting. And I loved reading all your pieces on this, so I recommend everybody do the same. Again, that was Ellie Winninghoff, and we're going to go to break. When we get back, we're going to wrap it up and get you guys to the second hour. My name's Heather Moore, and you're listening to Brashenomics.